What's up, everybody? This may be the most important video that I make because this is foundational to everything. People think that business and real estate is all about like the next deal, this house, doing this, finding a house, finding the right house, whatever that thing may be. But in reality, there is a core foundation that we must come from. And I want to share with you guys how this foundation has evolved for me over time. My mom used to ask me the same question over and over again as I was evolving into being an entrepreneur. She would always ask me, "So, are you going to get a job?" And this was a question that would annoy me so much because I was like, "No, mom, I'm building businesses." And it's really funny because I was actually with one of our investors a year or two ago doing some sort of Bible study. And his mom was there, and he has one of the largest yoga companies in the country. And she said, "So this yoga, it's so risky." And she's like, "Mom, it's like the top performing one in the country." And she's just like, "Yeah, but it seems," it's just really funny because like moms are always the same. It's really entertaining for me to see someone who has a family office and is extremely successful, and his mom's still like, "Well, what about this yoga investment?" And this planted this seed in my head. I would always think, well, what is my dollar per hour work if I did stop everything? And there were moments in business where it's like, I might stop everything. There are these transition moments where things were really challenging. And I was like, what would it look like to get a job? And it's only happened a few times throughout my entire entrepreneurial journey where I thought, if I were to stop right now, what would I do? And this is what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about this idea about how we are the asset, and what we're doing truly when we're doing business is we're experiencing inner transformation, right? Business is the best self-development tool that there is in the world, right? We really enter into the video game of life when we start doing business. And the reason for that is because we have all the responsibility, right? We have ownership of this thing that we are birthing and that we are creating, and we can breathe into and turn it into really whatever our hearts desire, right? And with that great freedom comes a great responsibility. And as we grow in that responsibility, there's more and more weight that goes to that responsibility. I was just listening to the podcast interviewing the founder of Panera Bread and hearing his story. He had thousands of employees, and he's just a regular guy, came from a normal family. And he's talking about the burden of responsibility, and not just the burden, but the honor and the gift of responsibility. So today we're going to talk about how to win in business and how to win in life, and the biggest lessons I've learned over the past 10 years and how my evolution has occurred, with the hope that this truly is foundational. So I know this isn't a straight tactical real estate video or entrepreneur video, but this is foundational. This is the most important thing that I've learned through my entrepreneurship journey, because the true reality is that is an inner transformation that occurs, and that's what creates the results, right? We evolve into the types of people that can't help but be extremely well off. And with that comes a responsibility to be extremely purposeful and help the world, right? We're not just building businesses to make $1 bajillion. Like if you're chasing after Ferraris or chasing after Lambos, it's probably not the channel for you, because like that's not the actual goal. Lambos don't lead to happiness. It doesn't lead to purpose. What leads to purpose is becoming people that can build things that have big impact in the world, helping people along the way and building a better lives for ourselves and our families and as many people as we possibly can. So, boom. Yes, my mom for years, "Are you going to get a job?" And the answer is still no. But with this came a lot of questions and thoughts of, what am I worth to the market? And that's what we're talking about today, is how that's grown over time. When I first started, I wanted to make $1 million in a year, right? I was a backpacker. My goal was to let me figure out money right now forever. Because when I really started off after college or in college, I had a horrible relation with money. I thought money was the root of all evil. I thought it was horrible. I was like, I don't need money. I don't want money. My whole time backpacking in Australia, I was extremely frugal. I didn't spend money because I wanted to save up as much as I can, because I didn't want to go like trade my time for money. Right. I was like, this is crazy. I don't want to trade my time for money. And with that, when I came into business, my goal was still like, I want freedom. I want to be able to continue living this travel life, experience the world, go travel around the world. And with that desire, I was like, okay, so let me like figure this money thing out, make $1 million in the first year. And then after that year, then I can just be free. I can be financially free. I don't need to work ever again. $1 million. I can travel for decades. Like everything will be good. So that was my original goal. I never want to have to think about money again. This was a very short-term mindset. And like, in that year came a lot of mental distress, because like, I wasn't hitting my goals. I was getting way behind on my goals. I was beating myself up over it. I wasn't getting to that point where I thought it was that I was supposed to be getting to. Because I was playing a finite game, and the finite game was very unrealistic. And I was coming into this with no skills, no background in business, really nothing other than the goal. And so eventually my focus transformed into playing in decades. And you'll hear me talk about this over and over again. Like when I was playing the game in 1 year, the goal is $1 million, right? But that's not how we actually play, because life is, we're playing an infinite game, right? It's not just like, there's not a finite game of I beat this and like this is an infinite game. There's a constant iteration. We're continuing to grow in skill sets and abilities over time, because the reality is that there is no finish line. Like you think there's a finish line. Like when I first started doing business, my goal was $1,000 a month. I was living in Thailand. I was like, if I make $1,000 a month, then I don't need to worry about money. I can stay in Thailand. And then now, as I'm going towards having a family and growing my family, it's like that the end goal constantly changes and constantly evolves. I've listened to many podcasts with many billionaires, and they say, the goal is constantly evolving. Like wherever you think you want to get to is not real, right? It's a figment of your imagination, thinking that there is a there that you're going to get to, right? So if you think there's a there, if you think it's just like, I need to get to 5,000 in cash flow or 20,000 in cash flow or 50,000 in cash flow, and then I will be there, it is an illusion. Listen to any person that's done big things in the world, talk about their experience and talk about that whole concept and that idea. None of them have gotten there, right? Zero. If you think you're going to retire, like if your goal is to like go sit on a beach somewhere, I used to think my goal is to do that. Now it's really hard for me to spend, 2 weeks or 3 weeks fully offline, not building anything, because I love what I'm building. And I want to build things to help the world, right? So the idea of like retiring on a beach is like absolute torture to me. I have zero desire to go retire on a beach. I'll spend a long weekend on the beach. I'll spend time with my family, but that's not the end goal. The goal can be a lifestyle goal. You want to have more time with your family, amazing. But like, if you think there is a there, there's not. And if you found it, comment it below. Let me know. If you're like, hey, no, you're wrong. I am there. Like I've gotten to this point. I'm there, and everything is perfection. Let me know. That'd be amazing. Okay. So let's transition from the finite thinking into the infinite game. The finite game is chasing into you. I just need this first year. I just need this. I just need this. Get rich quick, $1 million in 1 year. And the infinite game is about building the skills. It's about getting rich slow. And in reality, most people who are making $1 million, this is a huge fallacy as well. Like most people think they can make $1 million in a year. The majority of people that make $1 million, it usually takes 10 years, right? To really get to that point of like hard work, of focus, of dedication to get to that point where you're making $1 million. But what they don't tell you is going from 1 million to 10 million is way easier from going to 0 to 1. Yeah, it takes time. It takes time, but then you have those skills, and multiplying that and compounding the skills can be a lot quicker. So the infinite game is, we're building the skills, we're stacking the skills, we're evolving ourselves into people that can't help but be wealthy. We're evolving ourselves internally because we then become valuable to the world, valuable to the marketplace, and we have the ability to create awesome things. That's one of the coolest things about business. I've been in business for almost exactly 10 years, which is amazing to think about. And now I see that I could take a step back and build something. I listen to all these billionaires building their businesses. At this point, I have the skill set to really build whatever I want to. I know what it takes. I know what goes into the blood, sweat, and tears that go into building something that lasts, right? I've had iterations. I've had multiple different businesses. I've had failures. I've had shortcomings. I've had times where I thought I was going to lose it all. And this all happens, and this all creates wisdom, right? And through that wisdom and experience, I now have a lot of skill sets. If I say, hey, I want to go work for a company right now, my dollar per hour is really, really high. And this goes back to my mom asking me, like, what job are you going to do? And I'll talk about this in the next few slides. So build the skills, get rich slow. What does money even do? The billionaires I listen to, most of them make more money so they can give more away. What do you really need? For me, like I need very, very little. I lived out of a backpack for most of my 20s. I would constantly get rid of things. So for me, I know that I need basically nothing. I have my space to read. I have my space to study. I have my guitar. I have good books. I have good friends. I have good company. I have community, and I have a business and a purpose and something I'm creating that like sets my soul on fire that I'm really excited for. And I love the transformation that comes with that. And then these skills compound over decades. Einstein said the biggest wonder of the world, compound interest. So we're compounding our skills over time. Once again, you are the biggest assets, and your skills can never be repossessed. And this is one of the coolest things. Another thing with billionaires, like a lot of them at some point lost everything. A lot of people that are worth a lot of money, at some point they lost it all and they built it back. I don't think you need to lose it all. I don't think I'm going to lose it all with how I decide to build things and how I decide to build out my businesses, I'm pretty conservative with how I build things out. If I were to lose it all, I would be able to restart from scratch. And I have lost everything before, and I have rebuilt it from scratch. With those skill sets, they can't be repossessed. You'll keep those skills forever. And so we're going to talk about stacking skills here in the next slides. Remember that you are the biggest asset. I'm going to keep harping on this because this is the internal game. This is the game that we're playing. It's not about who cares about the house. 5 years from now, you're not going to think about this one house that fell through. It's about how can you continue showing up? How can you be diligent? How can you have strong work ethic? How can you build good relationships? And how can you build things in a moral way that helps people while also learning the skills along the way? So when I got into real estate, I say to every video, I knew nothing, zilch. I didn't know the word mortgage. I did not know the components of a house. And it was during that time, the first skill that I wanted to learn was sales. Tim Ferriss has a really amazing quote. He says, in your 20s, if you are going to decide what to focus on, what opportunity to go into, you should do the one that even if you fail, it would still be a win. What he means by that is if I was to just focus on sales and get really, really good at sales, my business totally fell apart, but I had that skill set of sales. That is worth it. That would still make it extremely worth it. And so I focused on sales. And another big thing about success is it's all about work ethic too. It's fully about work ethic and being willing to show up. If you're not willing to show up and willing to do whatever it takes, like you're not going to make it work. If you give yourself a back door, you're not going to make it work. There's got to be full commitment forward, no matter what it takes to create results. And so sales, I listened to the Cold Call Olympics on repeat over and over again. I found this YouTube videos of some of the best closers just calling sellers. I would just listen to them. I would be doing the dishes and just listening to this. I'd be going for a walk and listening to this. I'd be driving my car and listening to this. I was listening to the audiobook of The Straight Line Selling System or Way of the Wolf. It's Jordan Belfort's book. Everything I could find about sales, I was listening to over and over and over again. And when I wasn't listening, I was calling sellers and talking to them. I was practicing. I was learning the script. I was learning the frameworks. I was learning about how to ask questions and how most sales is really just being of service. It's really just asking questions, building rapport while you're going down the straight line and extracting the information that you need so you can lock up a deal and find the deal. And through that, I got really good wholesaling sales. Really what it is relationships and it's problem solving and seeing how you can help people. So that was skill set number one. I got pretty good at it. So when I learned sales, my dollar per hour in the marketplace jumped up massively, right? Just by learning that skill, I could easily make $150,000 to $200,000 per year, probably $250,000 per year if I lost everything and had to get a job. So as my mom asked me these questions, this is where I jumped from maybe $100,000 to $200,000 per year. And then the next thing I really started building was underwriting. Okay, so I'm wholesaling all these properties to buyers, and what are they doing with these deals? It took me too long to figure this side out. I didn't have enough these conversations because I was so focused in on doing the sales, doing the lead gen, scaling the wholesaling operation. I didn't care as much about what the buyers were doing as long as I can make wholesale fees. And that was an area where that was wrong of me. I should have been more focused on what my buyers are doing with deals. And this is why with our mentees, we really harp on underwriting. If you understand underwriting, the whole world of real estate opens to you. Because if you don't understand what people are doing with properties, then all you are is a salesperson. All you are is just moving things. But when you understand what the investment strategy is, now you have the potential to do that investment strategy and really just go to the moon. And then with that, deal recognition comes a lot easier, and then negotiations, the byproduct of sales as well. And it's learning how to negotiate and just learning the social cues that come with having a sales conversation. And then creative financing was the next one that we really added in. And with creative financing, if there is a motivated seller, we can find a solution for them. Is there motivation? If the answer is yes, there's motivation with a seller, then we can definitely find a solution for them because we have all the world of creativity at our fingertips. And so as I'm learning these things, my dollar per hour is just going through the roof. And then we started buying properties with creative financing and selling them with creative financing. And every one of those deals, makes $200,000, $250,000 of gross profit over time. And that skill set is absolutely incredible. So compound interest works on skill. You see how as these skills start to stack, our value to the marketplace increases exponentially over time because now I know sales, I know real estate, I've done rehabs. I know negotiation. I know how to do creative financing. Creative financing can go with business. I can go with anything. If I know how the numbers work in a property, it's a very similar concept of business, right? I can buy businesses. I can learn how to buy businesses because my skill set of sales, my skill set of underwriting, my skill set of understanding investments, these skill sets are extremely, extremely valuable. And so another big piece of this is that the outer results of our lives always lag with the inner transformation. So the inner transformation is happening always, and then the results, it'll come meet you there. For a long time when I was wholesaling, my salary was super meager. It was very basic salary, nothing crazy. I had two business partners. We were doing the deals, and yeah, the salary was like it was whatever. But like for me, I had everything I needed, and I was learning these skills. And then later on, as I started doing more deals and bigger deals, and my dollar per hour just like shot to the moon almost overnight. And so the outer results always lag from the inner transformation. The questions that we start asking ourselves start to evolve from what deal can I close this week to what am I becoming through this process and what am I evolving into through this process? What am I growing in? What skill set am I growing in? And how can I continue having growth mindset and not get complacent? And one of the toughest places to be is if you're earning like $250,000 per year when you're working a job because it's too good of money to leave, but it's too comfortable where you stop growing. Business is also a game of constantly leveling up our dollar per hour. When I was doing sales, I did sales for wholesaling for a really long time. And when I was doing sales for wholesaling, it was a high dollar per hour job, right? Because I was doing all the negotiation, locking up everything else. And it was easy to be there because it's a challenging role to fill. But then when I started filling that role and leveling myself up, I started raising private capital and I started having all these investor relationships. And I raised about $2 million in private capital, another skill set, super valuable. Now look at it. We have private capital raising, we have real estate investing, we have underwriting, we have sales, all those together. That's a very, very valuable person to the marketplace. So how I evolved was e-commerce, sales, real estate, system building, learning how to build a business, learning how to grow a team, learning how to hire, learning how to know where my weaknesses are. It's another really funny thing is I actually didn't know where my weaknesses were for the longest time. My weaknesses were that I didn't know where they were. And then as I continued doing these types of things, I realized that in my 30s, oh, I really suck at these things. I'm actually really good at these things. So how can I focus in on what I'm good at? Mistakes lead to wisdom, which leads to transformation. You're not going to get through business without having some wisdom, and you want wisdom. And wisdom's good because wisdom oftentimes sucks in the process of finding the wisdom, but simultaneously, it is extremely important, and you're going to get wisdom as you go through this. When I was living in Australia, working on farms, I was making 20 bucks per hour. That to me was actually really high. I was like, oh, wow, 20 bucks an hour. My background is I got kicked out of college. I had to work in factories. I worked in factories for $11 an hour at a book factory. I, at one point, was working for $9.50 per hour at a pasta factory, working from 6 p.m. till 4:30 a.m. overnight. I didn't have a car because I wrecked my car. Trouble days in my youth. I know what it's like to work very hard, very strenuous hours for basically nothing, you know? And at this point, I know my dollar per hour has evolved to the point where I can easily make $500,000 per year in many different ways. And so that's kind of the evolution. And that evolution will continue happening, right? As I continue growing, as I continue learning how to build good businesses and hire really well and hire the right people that are good at what I'm not good at and learn how to manage them and have the right people to manage them. Yeah. So this is, at this point, this is the floor. I know I can make that in many different ways. And so the question my mom asked me, if you're going to get a job, and my thought process of what I'm worth has massively evolved over time. And I think it's a good reflection as well. How are you evolving? How's your dollar per hour evolving? How can I continue allowing for that to evolve? Okay. Start somewhere, start with intention, commit to one skill, and continue moving forward. So if you're starting from the very beginning right now, there's no place to get to. And it's really an infinite game. So you're building skills and master the ones that are most aligned with your character, most aligned with what you're excited by and you know is really valuable to the marketplace. Rome was not built in a day, neither will your empire be. Build skills over time, the whole world opens up to you. Learn to love the game and you cannot lose. This is the best game ever. We're able to use those skills to build things to help people. That is the game that we're playing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Be sure to like, subscribe, do whatever you need to do to follow our channel. Let me know in the comments below if this hits, if this resonates, and thank you guys for watching the video.